It is Thursday night and we are back live. Yes, that means the chat line is open, and I'm very excited about tonight's show because we have a seasoned rock and metal veteran joining us. His name is Larry Worley. And from what I understand, and I'm starting to see on the screen, is we've got a few of his bandmates from the band Fear Not that are going to be joining us as well. We'll be with you in just a moment. Hey, and before we bring our guest on, my co-host down at the bottom of the screen there wants to remind you that, yes, we are live. And if you want to support the cause over here, you can purchase a super chat. We'll get that up there for you. Or you can get some really cool stickers online. So go ahead and do that. And it is my privilege to introduce this evening Larry Worley from the band Fear Not. Larry, welcome to Raven's Heart.
Thanks, buddy. It's good to be here.
I'm actually very honored to have you on, and I was just informed that the console that you're using over there is a Raven.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually was turned on to this by my good buddy Stacy Roberts from the Brave.
Okay.
He turned me on to this console, and I'm like, well, if I can sound half as good as you are using this, then I'm all in.
Your pipes sound like liquid gold right now, so it's sounds really good. Man, you've been at this really a mainstay in the rock and metal scene for several decades now. Can you take us back and share with us your journey as a musician? How did this all begin for you?
Well, very early, my music was in my family. My dad was a guitar player. My uncle was a piano player. A lot of my uncles and stuff played. So I was around it constantly. And let's see, I think I was around maybe 12, 13, maybe. And I would sit and I'd watch my dad, just sit on the side of his bed, and he'd kind of do like a little concert for me. And he'd just have his little acoustic, and he'd play Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley and things like that. And while he was playing, I would study his hands and his finger placements and everything on the guitar. And when he would set it down, I would sneak in there and I'd pick it up and I'd, try to mimic what he was doing and pluck away, and I did that for a little while until I magically strummed a D chord and it rang out. And, I was like, and from then on, I was like, I was hooked, and I just fed off my dad and all my uncles. And by 16, I think I was already hooking up with high school guys and putting bands together. And and by the time I was 19, I think I had my first record deal with a local band out in California called CIA. And from then, everything just progressed from there.
What you're saying here just goes to show how important it is for dads to set an example for their kids and
Absolutely.
how family influences the outcome. And you watch your dad play guitar, it influenced you. That was a natural gifting on the inside of you. And I know of so many instances, for me personally, I remember growing up saying, I'm not going to be like my dad, but here I am now at this stage in life. And I'm like, oh,
No.
wow, I'm just like my dad. Kind of scary.
Yep. But it's true, and my dad, he passed away in 2014, but he's with the Lord. So it's all good.
Amen.
We'll be reunited.
That's
But
good.
my mom, she's constantly just tells me, gosh, you remind me so much of your father, and that's, that makes me feel very proud because I honor my dad, and he was a great man, and so yeah, it's cool.
That's awesome. That is really cool. And you're just a genuine guy. And in listening to your music, you just genuinely address the real issues that real people face in life. It's just very clear, very plain. What would you say is the key to your authenticity in your music?
So that's a really good question, and I think it stems back just when I decided that I was gonna play music. I was gonna give it all to the Lord. Uh, because there was, a time, and probably in most musicians' lives where, they're really not seeking to be uh, a Christian artist. I think in the beginning, well, at least for me, I wanted to be the rock star. I was young, and um, I knew and saw the influence that you know those kind of people had on the effects um, on people's lives. And my mom would always constantly tell me, "No, one day you're going to be playing for Jesus." I would laugh and like, "No, you can't play rock and roll, and you can't do that." But I finally made the decision that, yep, you know what, um, that is definitely the life for me, and in the direction, and doesn't necessarily have to be like a Christian band or anything like that. It's just that's just how we live. That's who we are,
Yes.
and that just kind of it just kind of evolves into this is what it is.
Yeah.
But I think that's because you have to be real.
Yeah.
You have to be real, and you got to exuberate, just how human we are, and which shows how much grace and mercy that God has, and the more that people see that and go, wow, if God could affect this guy in such a way, then maybe that's good for me too,
Yeah.
and so the real, the better, we don't want to sugarcoat. We don't want to make things seem a different way than they really are, because, God loves us who we are and where we are,
Yeah.
no matter what. So being real. So yeah, and Chris, in fact, on the Fields of Sorrow album that we did back in 2022, uh, we just kind of laid it out there, and we just said, okay, no law, no rules. It's just we're going to write from the heart and however it comes out, it comes out. We didn't want to, have any type of uh, preconceived notions or anything like that of how we wanted to write or anything. We wanted it to be real and just like, okay, this is what God has given us. So
One of the things that you said is that you're just who you are. And I think a lot of us, I think we've all been there where we've been like, okay, well, this is my Christian self, and then I've got my other self over
yeah,
here. But when you just have it all working together,
yeah,
that's what I would call integrity, really, when
yeah,
everything's just all working together.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same guy in this studio as I am, with my wife and my kids, and I am at, when I go to work and or outside of anything else. I mean, this is you get what you get, you know, the good and the bad, you know.
Yep.
But
And
so
that's what the Lord uses. That's what
that's
he
right.
anoints. And it's so important to be that way.
Yes,
It takes
sir.
time though to learn that and to
Oh,
walk in that.
oh gosh, yes, because back in '93, when when Fear Not was you know doing the thing back then, although we thought that our hearts were pure and right and doing the right things, but over the years that we have matured as Christians and believers, and then went from young men to where we are right now, how much we have learned and matured and understood, like, wow, you know our hearts really weren't there. We were more into, okay, how can we make a living at this? How can we play in front of tens of thousands of people? And what was the meaning behind playing to tens of thousands of people? Is it because you want them to see Jesus, or you want them to see you up there, playing the songs that you wrote? And we were kind of in that place,
Yeah.
and and I think maybe, who knows what kind of God the plans were for them, but it seems that now that we have come back together and we have all grown up, it's like, we feel like this is where God intended us to be the whole time. Not back then, but to grow and to really mature and to be way more effective, and truthful and honest, and so I think now, man, and it's definitely not being rock stars.
No. Well, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to
Mhm.
start somewhere, and God's going to start you somewhere. And
Yeah.
it's a good place when you look back in your life and you look back at, 10 years ago, 20 years ago in your walk with the Lord and the things that you were putting your hand to. And you're like, what in the world was I doing?
Yep.
That's a
Yep.
good place to be because that means that you've grown. Well, let's go back to the year 1984, and you mentioned an acronym that my little Raven's freaking out about. He put his tinfoil hat on. We got the
Yeah.
CIA. You were in a band called
Yep.
CIA, and you actually played at the
We
1984
did.
Olympics. How did that happen? What was that like?
Honestly, I can't tell you how it happened. I just know that one day, our drummer James Moline, uh, just kind of came to us all. We came into rehearsal. He goes, "Hey guys, I got a call, and we are going to play at the 1984 Olympics in the Olympic Village, and we're going to play for all the athletes and their
Wow.
families." And I'm like, "Wow!" I go, "Well, we've got to be opening up for somebody, I mean." And it was, I wish I could remember her name, but if I'm not mistaken, it was for a relative of Donna Summers, and I believe it was her sister that was like headlining. If I could be wrong, but but it was that, and what an amazing time. We got to play there twice. We
Okay.
played there at it on the big stage, and then we played at a place in the what they call, I guess, the Olympic Village,
Hmm.
and it was like just a little smaller area where people gathered, and they had food and stuff like that, and that's just kind of where they would relax, I guess, and everything. So we played there too.
That's pretty cool. I
Yeah.
remember the
Oh, huge.
1984. I
Yeah.
remember that Olympic year very vividly.
Yeah.
I was so enthralled with it. I think I videotaped all the events that I couldn't stay up and watch at night. And for those of you that remember that musically as well, I think Lionel Richie did a 9-minute rendition of All Night Long. He tried to go all night long with that song during one of the ceremonies. I think it was maybe the closing ceremonies. I don't. I remember the spaceship from that they brought in too for
Wow.
that all. So that was pretty wild. So
Yeah.
awesome stuff. Well, let's talk about the president. I'm going to bring on. I got Gary with us, and he's the drummer from Fear Not. Gary, welcome to Raven's Heart.
How's it going, guys?
Going great. So let's talk about the band itself. You see a lot of bands come and go. You see a lot of artists come and go. Some of them Grammy nominated. They get their Grammy and then they just kind of disappear. But Fear Not's been going since the 90s. What would you say is the key to the longevity of the band? What's kept you going?
Well, I think Larry pretty much said it, but there was a lot of things happened we had a hiatus for actually a couple decades, where basically the thing that Larry was talking about, how we wanted to be rock stars and we wanted to do our thing. I mean, I'll embellish on that a little bit. Larry was, we started it for the right reasons. We used to have what they called carpet chewing parties, where we'd go in our studio and we'd lay on our faces all night and pray. And we sought the Lord a lot back then. But on the other hand, we got burned a lot. And it started to, we're trying to start families and live our lives, and we're broke, and we're trying to play music on the side, and there was no internet, there was no YouTube, guys. On YouTube, how lucky you are. There was no we had a few magazines that did articles. We had fan mail that people would send us, but that was it. We had no idea outside our little bubble in Hollywood and our little our world that we lived in, that people were getting ministered all over the world through our stuff. And I think had we known, we might have, took a different direction. But basically, God had a plan, and the plan is coming through now. But I think the longevity of it was we never fought. We never. I mean, we disagreed about stuff, but I mean, we knew what our goal was, and the Bible talks about a lot about when Jesus showed up, that people came. People would come, and thousands would show up on the shore, and he didn't have to get in a boat. So we kept that in mind all the time when we play. We always shared the gospel. We always pray with people. We still do to this day. People knew what we were about. I think what the only thing that hindered us was the fact that the Christian industry was and is, and still today doesn't for some reason, because you are quote unquote a Christian band, they don't think they have to pay you, and it's really sad because they don't realize everything costs a lot of money. Yeah. And so for us to go out and do a show, it's, thousands of dollars for us to get there, and for us to, have the equipment that we have and put on a show that we have. And, and not a lot of people want to pay that, and they got to buy your records, and they got to. So it's one of those things where we had to come to a place where we realized that we can't change it, only God can, and we're going to live in that world, and we're going to do what we do, what we're called to do, because it is a calling, And it was funny because every one of us has told the story, and I'll just tell it because Chris isn't here. He always tells it. But like we had a group of guys that got us back together. Basically, they said, you guys have to come to Oklahoma, and you have to have a rehearsal. We're going to record it. It's going to be cool. I think they even paid my way out there, and they had a hotel. It was super cool. And we have lifelong friends because of these guys. And we got in the car from the airport to the venue that we're going to rehearse at, and it just started immediately. It was like we were still in 1994 driving to Hollywood. It was laughing, we were cutting down. We genuinely, I think the whole key to it is we genuinely love each other. We're buddies. We're accountable to each other. We're honest and open with each other, and that's it. And then the new Fear Not, I guess you'd say, was born from Larry's words, where he said, "Just play." It wasn't formula. We weren't looking for a formula. We weren't looking for hit records. We were just like, Larry wrote the song. We have our producer who comes in and
he's amazing,
arranges it, and he's amazing. And then he sends it to us, and we record it. And this, the new album's what you get. It's like Larry's like, Gary, if you feel it, play it. Whereas in the past, producers and the age was not so free, where we would, you got to stick to a formula, you got to do this, that. It's like this is really us on this album, and it's really
awesome. That is awesome.
And Larry, as the leader of the band, he won't claim that, but he kind of is. He encouraged it. So, and then
so cool.
Also Eddie Green, I don't know how we scored with him, but we scored an amazing songwriter, lyricist, and singer, and performer. So he came in and fit in really well with the band.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got some comments coming in from some longtime friends of Ravensheart and Lithoscry, Warriors of Light, El Victoria, and Braden. Yeah. They praise the Lord to your testimony of the longevity to the band. And El Victoria says, "Can't wait to share the stage again with you guys." I love Laura, Victoria, and Braden.
That'd be great.
Up here in Charleston for 2 years in a row for Get Revelation Rock Festival. When I used to live in Charleston, I don't live there anymore. So, but wonderful brother and sister in the Lord. Thank you for watching tonight. Let's get to some music. We've been talking about how genuine, how real it is and everything like that. And I want, our viewers that have not experienced your band, Fear Not, to do so. And the track that I want to feature is entitled A Circle Complete. Can you tell us a little bit about that song while I cue it up?
Yeah, that was actually an idea that Eddie had from previous back a ways back through other projects that he had, and he brought it to me one day, and he's like, "Hey man, I have this idea, and what do you think?" And it was an arranged idea. It was a demo that he had done. And I immediately fell in love with it, especially the lyrical part of it. I was like, Eddie, this is like really, really good. And it touched me, because we go through so many things in life. There's, we could have all we can have, and we think we have it all, but you know what? It's not really complete until you bring the Lord in the center of everything, and that's what makes it complete is him, and so, man, we laid this song down and we couldn't be more happier than the way it turned out.
Oh, it's awesome. This is A Circle Complete by Fear Not.
Sometimes I struggle.
That is a well-seasoned steak. I mean, that is like a porterhouse of rock. And another comment, amen, let's go. It is just a few of us singing songs about Christ to non-Christians. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Love the comments tonight. Totally awesome. Let me go ahead and there they are. And there we go. That was absolutely amazing track. And there's something I want to talk about with that in just a second here. And of course, our Ravens commenting that is an infectious track that we have.
Awesome.
I've been diving into the track, and the Lord led me to James chapter 4, verse 8, just where it says, "Draw nigh to God, and He will draw nigh to you."
Yeah, that's right.
And that song is just filled with biblical nuggets. I mean, it is just so packed. It just brought me to that verse, and I was contemplating the verse a little bit. And sometimes we wonder why God seems so far away from us. Why has He gone so far away, when really the truth of the matter is we're the ones that have gone far away from Him?
Yeah, that's right. That's a fact.
Yeah. You want to share a little bit more about that, Larry? That seems to resonate in you, what I just said there.
Well, I mean, it's absolutely true, because God never leaves us nor forsakes us. I mean, He is right there. He's waiting, knock and the door shall be open. He's just waiting for us, and the only way is for us to just to be separated, is to just move away, because He just stays here. And we're either going to draw close to Him, or we're just going to, go fall further and further away.
Yeah.
So it's so important. It is so important to stay in the Word. It's so important to pray. It's so important to be connected to the source. It's not enough just to say I'm a believer and try to live a life as good as you can.
Right.
I mean, you have to be connected to the source, because He is what's going to get us through everything that we come to face with. So yeah.
And that ties in with your band's name, Fear Not, because one of the things that I've been learning very clear and hearing very clearly, that fear is that wedge that oftentimes drives us away from the Lord. We'll wind up in these situations where it seems so difficult and so impossible. We're like, oh, you just cower. But really, it's at those times we have to cast out the spirit of fear, that we fear not, and we draw nigh to God for a circle complete.
That's right. That's really good.
Wow, that's a complete episode right there.
Yeah,
Hey, we got another comment. We've got Steve McGowan's up, brothers.
Hey, how you doing, Steve-O?
Steve, thanks for joining us tonight. You guys have really shared a lot of just good nuggets, biblically, musically, and some information about what it was like for you as musicians in the 90s and the struggles that you had. And we have a lot of musicians that watch this show. Could each of you give one word of advice to Christian musicians for today?
A word.
Yeah, a word of advice.
Well, I would, for Christian musicians, man, the only thing I could say is, if you're going to dive in wholeheartedly. Don't with both feet, and take it seriously, and not just the music, but the relationship with the Lord, our Father. Because I mean, He's the one that opens the doors. He's the one that leads and directs. Can we try to make things happen on our own? Sure. But again, without Him, that circle is not complete.
There we go. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yep. Gary, word of advice for Christian musicians today.
I'm going to say something that is our favorite part of being Christian musicians, as Fear Not. And I can say this for the whole band, because it's the truth. We'll be up there on stage smiling, and we'll be playing hearts out, doing the best we can, and problems come and everything. But the best thing to do that we consider is availability. Be available to the people who buy your records. Be available to the people who are your fans. Be available to the other bands that you play with. Be available
Yeah.
to people who come to see your show. Pray with them. Offer. Don't just hope they'll come up and ask you for. Offer prayer. Offer your heart to them, and it's the most fulfilling part of playing concerts is afterwards, whether it's at the merch table or walking through the audience or in the parking lot. You're going to meet someone who your music touched, and if they can become your friend and feel like they can talk to you, feel like they can email you, they can message you on Facebook.
Yeah.
And that might be the reason that God doesn't let us get so big, so that we can can personally touch people's lives.
And that's okay.
We can lay hands on people and pray for them and ask God to heal and to touch and to redeem. And I think that's the biggest thing. And do it as a band, be available.
That is just priceless advice. Thank you so much. So go in all out, not just for the music, but with your relationship with the Lord, and be available. Don't get a bad case of rock star syndrome and think that you're above your fans. You're not. And that goes for anything. I mean, that goes for preachers, that goes for ministers, that goes for anybody. We're here to serve others, and that's what Jesus did.
That's
and
right.
No servant is greater than his master, and that's really what it comes down to.
I think too is that there are musicians who get up on stage and they are just all over the place. You just think, oh my gosh, that guy's up. And then in real reality and personal relation, they're introverts.
Mm-hmm.
And it took time to learn that sometimes they're just introverts and they can't they don't have that emotional social connection. For the fans, give those guys a break. If they don't seem like they're nice or whatever, ask somebody who knows them, who really knows them, because some people aren't as easygoing as Larry and I.
That's very true. That's very true. A lot of people are very introverted. I can relate to that because that is really more of my bend as an introvert. It doesn't seem like it when we do this, but I'm very introverted, and it's not because I don't like you. It's just the way that I am. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Unfortunately, we are out of time, and yes, we will be back next week at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Thanks for all that are watching this evening. Thanks for the comments. And Larry and Gary, if you can just hold on after we close out, that would be awesome. Thank you. And until next week, peace out and rock on.
Lithoscry.com